across the world. We are World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, drought, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. We're starting this newscast with breaking news that's coming in at this point of time. Fresh Israeli attack targets Iran vital installations under attack in Tehran. Multiple explosions heard across Tehran. Iran's state TV says it is being attacked by Israel. Attacks comes after IDF warned of new attacks. IDF says it is striking military targets are currently being struck in Tehran.
فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم
Well, let's now show you the moment an Iranian TV station came under attack, the moment of the attack of Iran's state broadcaster, even as the news anchor was reading. Watch these images and the moment of the strike. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is now joining us on the broadcast. Susan, you know the IRIB headquarters in Tehran and the locality. Well, talk to us more about these Israeli strikes on IRIB, which just took place moments ago.
Yes, as you mentioned, I'm very familiar with that complex and its different buildings. I will tell you and our viewers, first of all, that it's like a small village. It's like a really small town. And when you go in there, it's not just like a single building, an office building, as you would imagine. It has different parts and different studios and different offices. It's home to the Islamic Republic of Iran's broadcasting, but also it is a home to many satellite transmitters, satellite transmissions for broadcast, not only nationally, locally, but some international networks for the region as well. Not all of Iran's state international media is housed at IRIB at the moment, but nonetheless, a very significant development. It is heavily guarded from all sides. It occupies a very large part of District 3, which makes sense why the Israeli government called for civilian evacuation of that area. But it's also important to note that while it does cover a very wide area and it's very heavily guarded, it is in the middle of a residential neighborhood, essentially, with shops and stores and homes, not only apartment buildings, but villas as well. And this is a building that has stood the test of time even prior to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. It was home to where Iran was broadcasting television. So it's a very significant development. We just saw that video of the news anchor being live on television and seeing that it's hit. Again, it's important to wait and assess what kind of damage has been done to this complex, considering the fact that it's very big. It has different studios, and also, what other damage possibly has been done not only to the infrastructure, but to civilian lives and those who are inside IRIB as well.
Right. Right, Susan, thanks for getting us the latest on that. We're also now being joined by Mahmoud Hassani, journalist from Tehran. Welcome to WION, Mr. Hassani. You're joining us live from Tehran. Talk to us about the situation and the on-ground reality at this point of time, because just moments ago, Israel struck the IRIB TV station there in Tehran. What's the latest?
Thank you. Israel claims that it only targets military facilities, but I have visited the IRB center several times in Tehran, and I can assure you there are absolutely no military targets inside the IRB center. And the building that was targeted was responsible for the news section of the whole IRIB broadcasting. After the strike, the IRIB cut off its live programs. And I've heard from some of the people inside the building that they had already evacuated most of the people who were working there, and only the anchor and several people were present at the time of the strike. They knew about it beforehand, but still there was people inside the building, and their situation remains unknown. And Israel is doing exactly the same thing as it did in Gaza. It targets journalists, it targets people who are reporting on its crimes. Israel in Gaza targeted both center, targeted the TV stations, targeted the radio stations, and it continues to target journalists. And it's doing the same thing in Iran now. It has now started with targeting the IRIB center, and it will continue to target all the newspapers, all the reporters that are present in Iran.
Right, Mr. Hosseini. Talk to us about what kind of retaliation can we expect from Iran right now, because we are seeing that Israel has expanded its target list in Iran from earlier targeting nuclear sites to military leaders and now the IRIB. What kind of retaliation can we expect from Iran? Because the Iranian leaders have clearly said that Israel will have to pay a heavy price, and it will not stop until the Israeli attacks stop.
I think Iran is going to use more advanced missiles and is going to attack more targets in Israel. But I think the problem with the risk retaliation is that does not have much missiles left. And in the first day of the attack, of the Israeli attack on Iran, it used 200 missiles in its attack. But last night, in its latest attack, it used only 30 missiles. It is today it said that it is getting ready for a long war. So I think it is rationing the missile that it has left. I think at the first day, several silos of the Iranian missile was targeted, and so it does not have. It's not firing a lot of missiles all at the same time. It is firing a few missiles every day, and Iran may target Israeli channels in retaliation for this. But Israel has its channel 13 has already been evacuated to a bunker, and they are broadcasting their TV programs from their bunker.
Right, Mr. Hosseini, you're joining us live from Tehran. What is the situation like there? What are you hearing from the Iranian authorities? Stay with us. The U.S. President Donald Trump is speaking on the current situation between Iran and Israel. Let's just take a listen.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
And what would you say, in your opinion, what would it take for the U.S. to get involved in this conflict militarily?
I don't want to talk about that.
As you mentioned Putin, do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point, because too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him, and the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have that war. You know, you have your enemy at the table. Even I don't even consider him. He wasn't really an enemy at that time. There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8 at that time, it was always the G8, you wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not? What intelligence support are you providing Israel?
We've always supported Israel. We have for a long period of time, strongly. And Israel's doing very well right now.
Why not have China at the G8? Why not have China here, the biggest economy in the world after the United States?
Well, it's not a bad idea. I don't mind that. If somebody wants to suggest China coming in, I think we suggest. But you want to have people that you can talk to. You know, they don't talk to. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out, and he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you that. He basically doesn't even speak to the people that throw him out, and I agree with him.
Go ahead.
On immigration, why are you ordering ICE to target Democratic inner cities? What's behind that?
I don't know what you're saying.
You did a post last night where you said you want ICE to really target Democratic...
Yeah, I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what you call sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and you know, New York and L.A., look at L.A. L.A., those people weren't from L.A., they weren't from California, most of those people, many of those people, and yeah, that's a focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
That was the U.S. president. When asked about the Israel-Iran war, he said he does not want to comment, and he spoke about how U.S. has been supporting Israel. Well, we have Mr. Hosseini back here with us. Mr. Hosseini, talk to us about why do you think Israel has targeted IRIB?
The same reason it targeted journalists in Gaza as well, and in Lebanon. In Lebanon, if you remember, during the war, it targeted a guest house near the border, and over a dozen journalists were killed there. In Gaza, over 230 journalists have been killed. And in Iran, it has just, I think it is just a beginning. It continues to target journalists because they want to silence of every voice that is opposing it. It wants to silence the media. It wants to hide what it's doing in Iran. It wants to hide that what it is actually targeting civilians. And there are at a lot of the places it has targeted, there are no military targets inside. There are a lot of people near my own home was targeted several times. There were just residential buildings. Yesterday's target was just a residential building 2 blocks from my own apartment. And there are no military targets inside. A children's hospital in Tehran was targeted yesterday. Children's hospital. And today, after it has ordered evacuation order, it has issued evacuation orders for the neighborhood 3 of Tehran that houses several hospitals. Now, if it targets hospitals, it say now I have already evacuation orders. There are military sites, but they're only hospitals.
Right. Like you also mentioned, Israel announced evacuation alert for Tehran 3 district. Apart from IRIB, do you think any other infrastructure has been hit by Israel?
There are several IRGC headquarters, I think, in that area, is located in that area. One hospital, which is associated with the IRGC, but it's ordinary civilians usually go there. And there are also, that neighborhood is a very densely populated neighborhood. It's a very crowded neighborhood. If it strikes that area, and there is usually a heavy traffic in that area, if it targets that area, it will be devastating. There will be huge human casualties.
Right. Also talk to us about how are Iranian civilians responding to these strikes? What is the on-ground situation like in Tehran at this point of time?
Iranian people unilaterally are condemning Israel's attacks. It has created a very strong sense of unity since the war began. This might not have been the case before the war, but now there's a strong sense of unity among the people. People are condemning Israel's attacks. People are helping each other. People who have been stranded, for example, the people who are stranded in other cities, they're housing them. And there's a very, very strong sense of patriotism in Iran.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Hosseini, for getting us the latest from Tehran at this point of time.
Thank you.
In signs of further escalation, according to Iranian state media, Iran's Revolutionary Guards have called on Tel Aviv residents to evacuate as soon as possible. Israel has struck IRIB headquarters in Tehran. Evacuation orders in Tel Aviv came just after Israel said Iran's state TV and radio about to disappear. Both the countries are now targeting critical infrastructure in densely populated areas. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have called on the residents of Tel Aviv to evacuate as soon as possible. And this as Tel Aviv now braces for possible Iranian attack. War between Israel and Iran escalating to next level clearly as both the countries continue to attack each other on day 4 of the conflict between Iran and Israel. And that's the news coming in. IRGC has now issued evacuation orders in Tel Aviv. That's after Israel attacked IRIB in Tehran. Well, Israel's surgical strikes on Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure were designed to cripple Tehran's war machine. While Iran bleeds from these wounds, Benjamin Netanyahu appears trapped without a clear end game beyond pleading for America to unleash even greater firepower. The brutal reality, Israeli air defenses are buckling under Iran's relentless missile barrage. And now, Israel is urging France and UK to help provide more interceptors. The next report telling you more.
The night sky above Israel erupts in deadly fireworks. Tiny metallic specks pierce through cloud cover, each carrying devastating payloads of destruction. From the ground below, interceptor missiles streak upward, desperately hunting the incoming threats, in a deadly game of aerial chess. Then catastrophe strikes with terrifying speed. One missile plunges earthward like a falling star of death. Another finds its mark with surgical precision. A direct hit that shatters the illusion of Israeli invincibility. Despite the Iron Dome's reputation, multiple Iranian projectiles have punched through Israel's vaunted defenses, slamming into Tel Aviv, Haifa and Bat Yam with devastating force. These images tell the tale of the brute power of Iranian missiles. Death and devastation on the ground. Residential towers collapse into rubble. Cars explode into roaring fireballs that illuminate the terror-stricken streets. Windows shatter across busy thoroughfares as the shockwaves ripple through urban landscapes. Air raid sirens wail their haunting warnings as terrified families dive into underground shelters, while rescue teams charge through choking smoke and twisted debris to save the wounded. The Iron Dome isn't Israel's only guardian angel. The nation's survival depends on multiple layers of sophisticated air defense. The battle-tested Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 systems and the David Sling, which stands alongside the Iron Dome. But even Israeli officials admit the terrifying truth. The Iron Dome isn't invincible. They've repeatedly warned of the tough days ahead. For the first time, Israel's military is publicly acknowledging that greater pain awaits.
From the moment we launched the campaign, we acted with surprise and deception. In the opening strike, we eliminated the top military command. We will continue to intensify our operations, and in doing so, strengthen our security for years to come. Defending our home front is a critical component of this campaign. As I told you from the beginning, there will be difficult moments. We are in the midst of a challenge unlike those we have faced in the past. We knew there would be a price, and it underscores why we acted now, before it became too late.
After days of pulverizing Iranian air defenses and missile installations, Israeli forces claim aerial supremacy from western Iran to Tehran's doorstep. IDF claims to have obliterated 120 surface-to-surface missile launchers, a third of Iran's arsenal that had been raining death on Israeli soil during brutal overnight campaigns. But the danger is far from over. Iran is believed to possess more than 3,000 ballistic missiles, and its salvos continue to rain death and destruction on Israeli cities. The question now is, how long can Tehran sustain these attacks? Israel's defenses are clearly under unprecedented strain, and the nation is now turning to Europe for reinforcements. With Iran showing it can penetrate deep and Israel vowing to burn through Iran's defenses, the battle is far from over. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Well, Israel is no stranger to conflict per se, but it is now coming face to face with a new kind of reality, one dotted with death, devastation, the plight of ordinary citizens, and the pain of war. This as Iranian missiles continue to target homes, schools, and civilian establishments right in the heart of Israel. Panic and anxiety gripped Israelis as they woke up to loud sounds of explosions on Sunday morning and, of course, further for the fourth consecutive day in a row. Look at these visuals on your screens right now. Buildings and apartment complexes massively hit. Shelters shook, cars damaged, and streets left in ruins. All this after they were hit by a wave of Iranian missiles in the Israeli coastal city of Haifa. Residents of some of these buildings were seen raising alarm as their homes were reduced to rubble in front of their eyes.
All the electricity went out. There was a high voltage cable that fell. An electrical transformer room was on fire. It was impossible to access. There were many explosions and a fire that completely destroyed several cars.
In moments, private properties were decimated, leaving many homeless and full of fear.
I couldn't go home. Everything was destroyed. The staircase was destroyed. It wasn't safe.
And not just Haifa, cities like Tel Aviv, Benin Barak, Petah Tikva, among others, also bore the brunt of these strikes. A police spokesperson says at least 3 were killed and over 30 injured in Israel's Petah Tikva, whereas in Tel Aviv and Haifa, at least 8 have been killed, with women and children among the victims. As the war continues to claim the lives of the innocent, in Jerusalem, schools, restaurants, places of worship and businesses, including banks, remain closed, as residents anticipate more barrages of attacks to come.
I was a soldier in the army, so I have control, composure. I helped people. I counted them, and all that somehow helped me get out of this panic and function and manage the event. There were 12 to 13 children there in the shelter, screaming, and about 11 adults.
The overall mood appears to be tense and uneasy, even for a population which remains otherwise combat-ready. And security seems to be fragile, with a sizable chunk of civilians living near major Iranian targets. In Tel Aviv and other cities, and for the first time, people sense limits to Israel's defense capabilities, especially its air defense system, the Iron Dome. In a bid to counter the Iranian onslaught, replete with ballistic missiles and other advanced weaponry, they fear that the ability to keep civilians safe, more so as Israelis remain increasingly cautious of an outbreak of a more dangerous war. In days to come, that's in the future.
It's not easy to be in a war. It's never easy to be in a war. I have 2 kids, young kids, one 8 and the other one is 5. But we are all very brave and they understand the situation. And yes, it's not the easiest thing to pass a war and my house windows destroyed by the missiles, and we need to move now.
And commenting on the latest attacks, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently said that the missiles does not distinguish between Jewish and Arabs and destroys them all.
4 of our civilians were killed yesterday in Tamara. I heard cheering. I reject that with all my soul. The missile does not distinguish. It does not distinguish. It hits both Jews and Arabs. They are coming to destroy all of us. We are brothers, and so we stand in this battle together.
Meanwhile, in Iran, the death toll from Israel's airstrike campaign has reached at least 224 civilians, account for almost 90% of the casualties. From the looks of it, there's no end to tensions in the region rising, and the conflict seems to be only getting started in ways more than one. It is a huge litmus test for both the country's defenses and also their governments, if they are able to protect their civilians and prevent more death and destruction from taking place. US President Donald Trump stop the Israel-Iran war? Because the war between Israel and Iran is now threatening American interests, and it has knocked on America's doors, almost literally. The US Embassy in Tel Aviv has been temporarily shut down after an Iranian missile struck the embassy, causing what the US ambassador called minor damage to the embassy. And the US Embassy in Iraq has issued warnings of possible attacks on American citizens, facilities, and businesses. US nationals in Baghdad have been urged to avoid crowded places and areas frequented by foreigners. In Tehran, the Swiss embassy, which has historically functioned as a quiet back channel between Washington and Iran, is now shut. Even if Trump says countries like Iran and Israel, in his words, have to fight it out first before they reach a deal, it appears Trump can no longer afford to just watch from the sidelines, because the stakes have shifted and American interests are now directly under threat. Ever since the war broke out last Friday, Trump's own words on the war have wavered from one extreme to the other.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Just a day earlier, on a post on social media, Trump denied any U.S. role in Israeli strikes inside Iran, while warning that any attack on America by Iran in any way, shape or form would trigger an unprecedented military response. But this statement was in clear contrast to the statement he gave to Reuters during a telephonic interview on Saturday, in which he said he and his team had known they were in know of the attacks which were coming. And earlier on Friday, in yet another post on social media, Trump warned that more violent attacks were on the way. He described the situation as spiraling, urged Iran to make a deal before there's nothing left, and acknowledged the death and destruction already underway. So through all these contradictory comments, if Trump thought he could keep one foot in and one foot out, the idea of staying neutral, of letting the regional players sort it out themselves, has perhaps collapsed. American embassies are under threat. Americans are being told to take cover, and the possibility of wider escalation now carries the risk of dragging the United States directly into a larger conflict, whether it wants to or not. In 2020, when Trump and the White House faced a similar moment after an Iranian general was killed by an American drone attack, it used a Swiss diplomatic channel to diffuse tensions. But this time, that back door is also shut. This time, Trump has no such option to exercise, whether he likes it or not. The battlefield is directly hitting America's interests, and now it is no longer about asking if Trump can stop the war. It appears to be about how he will do so. Despite US President Donald Trump stating that America remains uninvolved in the ongoing tensions, recent developments beg this very important question. Is the United States fighting on its role in enabling Israeli attacks and dismiss back Iran's claim? The U.S. aircraft carrier USS Nimitz has reportedly abruptly changed course in the South China Sea. It was earlier scheduled to dock in Vietnam. It is now reportedly sailing westwards, possibly towards West Asia. The shift is reportedly due to an emergent operational requirement. The moves come amid growing reports that the US could be dragged further into the conflict between Iran and Israel. Adding more to this, speculation is the deployment of American refueling aircraft flying in large rare formations across the Atlantic, as well as the repositioning of Navy destroyers towards the Eastern Mediterranean. And all of this begs a simple but critical question. While Trump insists America is not involved in the attacks against Iran, it appears American forces are already deeply involved in Israel's war against Iran. And the evidence appears to be only mounting. And more information is now coming in on the Israeli attacks on Tehran. The images show the IRIB building on fire. Well, these are the latest images showing the destruction. We are bringing you minute-by-minute updates from Iran. As we told you just a short while ago, Israel attacked Iran's IRIB building, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building in Iran. This was, of course, and these are the visuals of the devastation, of the destruction of the missile attack by Israel on Iran's state TV, IRIB. Iran's state TV, which was hit in Israeli attack on Tehran just a short while ago. And that's the magnitude of devastation that the Israeli attack has done on Iran's IRIB. This is the fourth day of the Iran-Israel conflict, and they continue to attack each other. And this is the moment when I'm reading the news and she had to get up and seek shelter as Israel attacked Iran's IRIB, and anchor was perhaps forced to leave the studio mid-broadcast. The visuals on your screen, it is the magnitude of the Israeli attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building, and the building right there on clearly in flames with smoke jutting out of the building after Israel attacked Iran's broadcasting building IRIB. Well, in a region simmering with tension, the question isn't if, but when the next explosion will occur. The ongoing Israeli strikes on Iran have not only escalated the conflict, but also brought the stark realities of the two nations' military capabilities into sharp focus. The situation right now is a brutal test of endurance. Who can absorb the most pain and continue to fight?
Incoming missiles. However, missiles like these, which sneak through the multi-layer shield, caused much pain. The IDF says that the Israeli Air Force's success in destroying dozens of missile launchers and many missiles has reduced the pace of Iranian missiles piercing into Israel. The numbers paint a complex picture. Iran, with its vast territory and larger population, fields a substantial military, including a significant missile force. They possess a large number of ballistic missiles, including medium-range missiles capable of reaching Israel. However, much of their equipment is outdated, a mix of Soviet-era systems, pre-1979 American hardware, and more recent, though limited, Russian additions. Their air force, while numerically large, consists of aging aircraft, putting them at a disadvantage against Israel's modern fleet. Israel, in contrast, possesses a smaller but far more advanced military. Their air force is equipped with cutting-edge F-15, F-16 and F-35 stealth fighters, giving them air superiority in the region. Israel's defense industry is robust, capable of designing and producing advanced weaponry, and its forces are battle-hardened from decades of regional conflicts. The Israeli strikes have further weakened Iran. These precision attacks degraded Iran's air defenses and targeted key nuclear and missile facilities.
Now we can say that we have achieved full air supremacy in the Tehran airspace. Iranian cells that are firing missiles at the state of Israel and toward our planes are being attacked by us in real time. The closing the circle capabilities that we have seen so far in Gaza, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria are happening now in Iran as well.
The strikes also eliminated several high-ranking Iranian military officials and nuclear scientists, disrupting their command structure and potentially delaying their nuclear program. While Iran possesses a large number of missiles, including some
هشدارهای پیش رو برای روزهای آینده شما.
Advance warning to Israelis for your future days. Leave the occupied territories, for they will certainly become uninhabitable for you in the future.
سکونت نخواهد بود.
The long-term implications are less clear. Iran's ability to endure and absorb pain is significant. Their large missile arsenal poses a persistent threat, and their proxy forces in the region could be activated to harass Israel. However, continued Israeli strikes targeting infrastructure and military assets are likely to weaken Iran's military capabilities over time. The conflict has become a war of attrition, a test of wills and resilience. The question remains, who can withstand the accumulating blows and emerge victorious from this brutal exchange?
And well, more breaking news coming in. Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. Well, things are really seeming to be spiraling out. This is the fourth day of Israel and Iran attacking each other. For the past 3 nights, Israeli skies have been lit with attacks, with some missiles piercing the Iron Dome. We also have learned that the Iran state TV resumed live coverage after Israel's attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building, the IRIB building, which took place just a short while ago. And the latest coming in is that the Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and the most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. This, of course, comes after Israel struck Iran's IRIB, which is their Iranian state broadcasting building, a short while ago. And that's Iran's warning towards Israel that Tel Aviv should brace for one of its most intense missile attack in history on the Israeli soil after Israel struck Iran's IRIB building just a short while ago. Well, as per current Indian government figures, there are over 10,000 Indian nationals in Iran. Responding to India's request, the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has granted permission to the Indian Embassy in Tehran to evacuate its nationals. Indian students in Iran will now be escorted to Armenia's Norduz border through buses. According to the JNK Students Association, the Indian Embassy will begin relocating Indian students, including many from Kashmir, from Iranian city of Urmia to Armenia to ensure their safety. Tehran has now asked India to give the names, passport numbers and vehicle specifications of the people crossing the border to its General Protocol Department. An earlier statement from India's Ministry of External Affairs had said that the Indian Embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the situation in Iran and students were being relocated to safer places within Iran. Well, a chilling new SIPRI report warns nuclear weapon stockpiles are rising for the first time in decades. Over 2,000 warheads are kept on head trigger alert, and AI is creeping into launch systems. The risk of nuclear war is dangerously close. Our next report focuses on how the advent of AI is making the threat even more potent. Take a look.
From Ukraine to West Asia, Taiwan to the Red Sea. Conflicts are raging across continents. But behind the smoke of conventional war, a deadlier shadow looms. A new SIPRI report warns that the world is slipping into a full-blown nuclear arms race. The post-Cold War illusion of nuclear stability is shattering. A more dangerous shift is unfolding silently. A race to rearm with the deadliest weapons known to man. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's latest report is clear. The nuclear threat is growing fast. Global warheads now number 12,241, out of which over 9,600 remain in active military stockpiles, with nearly 2,100 poised for launch on permanent alert by Russia and the US, which holds the majority of nukes. The report points out how China has been steadily increasing its stockpile. According to the latest analysis, India has joined the elite club of MIRV-capable nations, developing canisterized next-generation missiles capable of launching multiple independently targeted warheads, a giant leap in offensive capability. Adding fuel to the fire, SIPRI warns of AI slipping into nuclear command systems. Automatic launch decisions could transform accidents into an apocalypse. Satellite warnings, submerged submarines, misfires, history is littered with close calls, and now advanced tech raises the stakes to existential levels. Imagine a world where a machine misreads a radar blip or a quantum sensor triggers a false alarm. In this new high-tech theater, a single glitch could unleash nuclear hellfire. Experts warn that as decision-making speeds up and human oversight erodes, the risk of miscommunication and catastrophic error grows exponentially.
The next step would be moving towards full automation, and that is a step that must never be taken. If our prospects of being free of the danger of nuclear war were to be left in the hands of an artificial intelligence, I think that then we would be close to the doomsday scenarios.
SIPRI warns we are entering a new age, not of deterrence, but of danger, where miscalculation, tech glitches or cyber sabotage could trigger the unthinkable. Nuclear-armed states are not just preserving weapons, they are building them for war, not peace. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The wounds of one of India's worst aviation disasters are still fresh. A high-level committee has been tasked with investigating the deadly Air India Flight 171 crash that claimed over 270 lives last week. And one of the crucial things that the investigators are preparing to probe are the late pilot's last words derived from the cockpit voice recorder, which has now been recovered from the wreckage site. There's been much speculation about the ill-fated flight's operations, going even as far as questioning the intention of the pilots on board. There are theories and counter-theories on what exactly happened in the hours and minutes in the run-up to the tragedy. Was it an equipment failure of some sort, or was it simply an oversight by technical workers and maintenance teams? It is hoped a second voice recorder now recovered from the crash site will throw light on so much that's in the dark at this point of time. Earlier, Air India CEO Campbell Wilson had said that investigations would take their fair share of time. Meanwhile, after a long wait, almost 87 victims have been finally identified by the hospital authorities through DNA tests. 47 families have reportedly collected the bodies of their relatives who died in the plane tragedy in Gujarat's Ahmedabad. Among the deceased is also former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani. His last rites were performed in Rajkot today. The Gujarat government has announced state mourning in honor of the former Chief Minister. Besides the 241 passengers on board killed, many were student doctors at the Medical College hostel where the plane crashed.
That is human nature, isn't it? When our own people are injured, our first response is to help them. So the doctors who managed to escape out of the canteen, the first thing that they did was they went back in and dug out their colleagues who were trapped inside and were not able to get out on their own. And we went to meet them. They are still in hospitals taking care, and they're so grateful to their colleagues, because but for them, they might not even have survived, because the rescue teams take time coming.
There's also lingering extension to the Air India horror of the 12th of June, just today. An Air India Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner bound for New Delhi returned to Hong Kong International Airport shortly after takeoff. And as per the airline, this was a precautionary measure after a technical issue. Even as passengers were reportedly safely disembarked, this only amps up the prevailing scrutiny around Air India flights and also Boeing manufactured planes. While there are more questions than answers at this point, the reality on the ground is grim. Several domestic airlines are reportedly seeing a 15 to 20% rise in cancellations or rescheduling done by passengers who see flying with some sort of nervousness at this point of time. It will, of course, take time for people to recover from what can be called one of the darkest days in Indian aviation history. In a historic shift at the heart of Britain's intelligence services, MI6, the United Kingdom's Secret Intelligence Service has appointed its first female chief in its 116-year history. We're talking about Blaise Metrueli will become the first female chief of MI6. She is set to take charge as the country's external intelligence chief from Richard Moore later this year. Often portrayed in fiction as the agency behind the exploits of James Bond, MI6 now sees a very real change in leadership, one that breaks with more than a century of tradition. Since its founding in 1909, MI6 has had a long line of male chiefs known internally by the codename C. It's a tradition dating back to the agency's first director, Mansfield Cumming. Well, Blaise, she's currently the Director General Q, responsible for technological and innovation at the Secret Intelligence Service. a role made famous by the gadget's chief in James Bond movies. Once promoted, Metrovelis will be called C, that denotes chief. Intelligence agency MI5 has had two female chiefs in the past, Stella Remington and Eliza Manningham-Buller. Let's now tell you more about Metrovelis. Blaise Metrovelis studied anthropology at Pembroke College, Cambridge. She joined the Secret Intelligence Service in 1999 as a case officer. She spent most of her career in operational roles across West Asia and Europe. She also held director-level positions in MI5. Metrovelis later became Director General for Technology and Innovation at MI6. In 2024, she was appointed a
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION. World is one.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, world is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back to WION, World is One. We are glad you're watching. Time now for Pulse American Joker. Let's begin this broadcast with the news making headlines at this hour. Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. This as Israel continues to strike Tehran for the fourth consecutive day. Iranian TV station hits during Israel missile strike on Tehran. Video of the moment of the attack on Iran state broadcaster while the anchor reads news goes viral. President Trump says Iran is not winning its conflict with Israel, reiterates it should re-enter negotiations before it's too late. Russia says the U.S. has cancelled a fresh round of talks on normalizing the operations of their embassies. The next round of talks are to be moved to Moscow from Istanbul. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he wants to discuss buying US-made weapons with President Trump at the G7 meeting in Canada. Stresses, however, that the US military aid for Ukraine was not on the agenda. Indian government begins a high-level probe into the Air India tragedy. 114 DNA matches of victims confirmed. Identification process still ongoing. WhatsApp will introduce its boldest advertising features yet. marking a significant shift for the messaging platform that has largely remained ad-free since its launch. India will take on Pakistan at the ICC Women's World Cup on October 5th in Colombo. It will be the first time the two teams face off in cricket after the ceasefire in May. Let's begin with some breaking news coming up at this hour. Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. Things really seems to be spiraling out of control. For the past 3 nights, Israeli skies have been lit with attacks, with some missiles piercing the Iron Dome. We're also made to understand that the Iran state TV has resumed live coverage after Israel's attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting building, the IRIB. Israel struck headquarters of Iran's state TV in Tehran. Israeli Air Force bombed the offices of Iran's state broadcaster just a short while ago. The IRIB came under attack while the anchor was still on air, talking about Israeli strikes when explosions were heard in her background. Plumes of smoke can be seen as the anchor leaves the studio.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استودیو
So this is the latest in Iran, and on your screen are the images of the IRIB building on fire after it came under Israeli attack. However, shortly after the strike, state TV anchor was seen back on live broadcast. As you can see there, that's an image of the anchor. Her name is Islami. She's quite popular in Iran. And the moment that the missile struck the building where she was anchoring, she scampered for safety. That video has gone viral. The attack comes shortly after Israeli Defense Forces released a message on social media issuing a warning of evacuation to Iranians. The IDF posted an evacuation alert for Iranians in Tehran's District 3 in particular, and the statement by Israel was released in Persian. Israel's evacuation orders impact over 33,000 people in that area. It is important to note that Tehran's District 3 is an affluent neighborhood. Apart from the IRIB headquarters, other key buildings in the area include the headquarters of Iran's Defense Ministry and Defense Research and Innovation Organization. District 3 is a key location given the concentration of government and diplomatic buildings. Dr. Azriel Bamand is a senior researcher at the Institute of International Relations, Prague, author of Margaret Thatcher and the Middle East. He's now joining us live on this broadcast. Doctor, thank you very much for making time for us, and welcome to We on Wild as One. From military installations, some nuclear facilities, and now what Israel says attacked what it called the mouthpiece of the regime, that's the media. Why do you think Israel is enhancing their tactics on Iran?
Well, the original objective behind Israel's war in Iran was to damage Iran's nuclear facilities, to degrade Iran's nuclear facilities, and the threat this poses. However, it does appear that Israel's campaign is escalating beyond the original objectives. It may well be that because of Iran's strikes on Israel's cities, on Israel's population, Israel feels it has to escalate the campaign. But there is a concern that maybe this Israel's war is actually going well beyond the original objective.
Well, we do understand that the Iranian foreign minister has made a call to Washington, and Washington says that it could pave the way to diplomacy. Actually, Donald Trump did tell Iran to de-escalate and to speak to Israel. What do you think will be the, foreseeable, in the foreseeable future? Do you think diplomacy will work at this juncture?
Well, I actually think that let's see what the Trump administration is able to do. Right now, both Israel and Iran seem to be on an escalate, are intensifying the escalation. And I think right now, only President Trump has the means to restrain the Israelis. As far as Israel is concerned, I think the most important objective for Israel is to degrade Iran's nuclear program. Israel has already struck at the Natanz nuclear facilities, done some damage there as far as we know. But the Fordow nuclear facility, which is also another nuclear enrichment facility, has not been affected. Israel would probably need the United States to become involved in order to do significant damage to Fordow. I think if the Americans were to strike at that facility and degrade Iran's nuclear capability sufficiently, that could be enough for Israel to say, okay, we've done our job. Israel has already degraded, Israel has wiped out Iran's air defenses. It has the top brass of Iran's military establishment has been eliminated. I think the United States has to step in and say to Israel, okay, enough is enough. We'll take care of the Fordow nuclear facility, and then let's stop this war. Let's try, and then the United States will try and get pressure Iran to go back to the negotiating table.
All right. Dr. Bamant is a senior researcher at the Institute of International Relations, Prague, and also an author of Margaret Thatcher and the Middle East. Doctor, thank you for talking to us today.
My pleasure.
While the fighting between Israel and Iran seems restricted to the two nations, there have been widespread calls for restraint. But what if they fall on deaf ears? What if the fighting escalates and expands? Over to you, Molly.
Well, indeed, the big question hanging in the air amid all of this has been, what happens next? Where do things go? What lies ahead? Now, a number of scenarios. First and foremost, the most logistically complex scenario could be a surgical strike on the leadership, which would basically mean taking out political figures on either side. The Israelis killed Iranian nuclear scientists, its top IRGC and Quds commanders. In fact, the biggest target on Israel's radar is Iran's supreme leader. For now, that's not an option after Trump reportedly vetoed the plan. And if that happens, Iran would also want to extract revenge by targeting Israel's top leadership. That's clear. Now, let's just also talk about the next possible scenario. The target remains where it hurts the most, oil and energy infrastructure. We've been telling you about this. And Iran's refineries, shipping ports, even pipelines are set to be sitting ducks for Israel. Conversely, Iran continues to target the Israeli ports. In fact, Iran has already attacked Israel's Haifa refinery. But here's the central problem. Energy attacks invite global consequences. Tanker wars in the Strait of Hormuz, drone attacks on Saudi pipelines, or cyber attacks on Western oil companies could spike global prices and also generate international pressure. And this basically would lead to or add to inflation on a global economic system which is already creaking in a way under the weight of Donald Trump's tariff war. And this could be the most escalatory in economic terms. Let's also talk about, should a state wish to paralyze its adversary's governance? Targeting civilian and urban command nodes could be the next possible scenario. Israeli strikes on Tehran's administrative sectors or Iranian missile attacks on Tel Aviv could lead to a fight for survival. The use of AI-assisted kill chains, loitering munitions, deep penetration drones make such scenarios technically feasible. Killing civilians could shatter morale. Moreover, collapsing institutions could induce chaos. And one of the most desperate yet increasingly plausible scenarios would be America getting dragged into the war. For all the US denial, Iran clearly believes American forces endorsed and at least tacitly supported Israel's attacks. Iran could strike US targets across West Asia, such as special forces camps in Iraq, military bases in the Gulf, diplomatic missions in the region. Alternatively, Israel might exaggerate an Iranian attack by dragging Washington onto the battlefield. The logic is time-tested. Shared enemies create shared resolve. Iran, for its part, might galvanize its proxies across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon into mass mobilization, and this could be a dangerous gambit leading to a wider regional war. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Molly. Now, a chilling new CIPRI report is warning nuclear weapons stockpiles are rising for the first time in decades. Over 2,000 warheads are kept on hair-trigger alert, and AI is creeping into launch systems. The risk of nuclear war is dangerously close. Our next report focuses on how the advent of AI is making the threat even more potent.
From Ukraine to West Asia, Taiwan to the Red Sea. Conflicts are raging across continents. But behind the smoke of conventional war, a deadlier shadow looms. A new SIPRI report warns that the world is slipping into a full-blown nuclear arms race. The post-Cold War illusion of nuclear stability is shattering. A more dangerous shift is unfolding silently. A race to rearm with the deadliest weapons known to man. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's latest report is clear. The nuclear threat is growing fast. Global warheads now number 12,241, out of which over 9,600 remain in active military stockpiles, with nearly 2,100 poised for launch on permanent alert by Russia and the US, which holds the majority of nukes. The report points out how China has been steadily increasing its stockpile. According to the latest analysis, India has joined the elite club of MIRV-capable nations, developing canisterized next-generation missiles capable of launching multiple independently targeted warheads, a giant leap in offensive capability. Adding fuel to the fire, SIPRI warns of AI slipping into nuclear command systems. Automatic launch decisions could transform accidents into an apocalypse. Satellite warnings, submerged submarines, misfires, history is littered with close calls, and now advanced tech raises the stakes to existential levels. Imagine a world where a machine misreads a radar blip or a quantum sensor triggers a false alarm. In this new high-tech theater, a single glitch could unleash nuclear hellfire. Experts warn that as decision-making speeds up and human oversight erodes, the risk of miscommunication and catastrophic error grows exponentially.
The next step would be moving towards full automation, and that is a step that must never be taken. If our prospects of being free of the danger of nuclear war were to be left in the hands of an artificial intelligence, I think that then we would be close to the doomsday scenarios.
SIPRI warns we are entering a new age, not of deterrence, but of danger, where miscalculation, tech glitches, or cyber sabotage could trigger the unthinkable. Nuclear-armed states are not just preserving weapons, they are building them for war, not peace. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Well, new satellite images captured by Planet Labs and reviewed by WION reveal significant damage to key military and nuclear infrastructure across Iran following recent precision strikes. We begin with the Natanz nuclear facility, one of Iran's most critical uranium enrichment sites. Before and after satellite imagery shows a key above-ground structure completely destroyed. Notably, the site's power infrastructure has suffered what experts call extensive damage. Now, according to a report by the US-based Institute for Science and International Security, the loss of primary and backup power could render Natanz's enrichment operations inoperable, at least temporarily. Moving next to the Fordo facility, Iran's second underground uranium enrichment site, satellite images show minimal physical damage. This assessment has been confirmed by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, which continues to monitor developments closely. Just as Israeli strikes were reported at the nuclear facility, a magnitude 2.5 earthquake struck Iran's Qom province. Now, according to an initial earthquake report from Iran's National Seismological Center, the earthquake in Qom province had a depth of around 10 kilometers. Talking about Isfahan nuclear complex, the situation is more severe. Experts reviewing imagery from the site confirmed that 4 buildings have sustained damage. Isfahan is believed to house significant uranium stockpiles, making this site highly sensitive. In western Iran, a missile production and storage facility near Kermanshah also shows signs of a major strike. Satellite photos reveal scorched earth along the base of a mountainside, indicating the intensity and precision of the assault. Farther north, Damage is also evident at the Tabriz installation. Satellite views highlight multiple impacted areas, suggesting several direct hits. Lastly, imagery from Shiraz in south-central Iran shows the aftermath of an attack on a facility producing military-grade electronics, including radar systems vital to Iranian air defense networks. The situation remains fluid as the extent of damage and Iran's response continues to unfold. Now, amid the escalating Iran-Israel conflict, Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has granted permission to the Indian embassy in Tehran to relocate Indian students or evacuate Indian students out of Iran. Indian students will be escorted to the Armenia's Nordas border via buses. Now, according to the Jammu and Kashmir Students Association, the Indian embassy will begin relocating Indian students, including many from Kashmir, from Iranian city of Umia to Armenia, to ensure their safety. There are around 10,000 Indian citizens in Iran, with approximately 2,000 Indian students as of 2022. An earlier statement from India's Ministry of External Affairs said that the Indian embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the situation in Iran, and students are being relocated to safer places within Iran. India will take on Pakistan in the ICC Women's ODI World Cup on October 5th in Colombo. It will be the first time the two nations face off in cricket since the ceasefire last month. The fixtures for the World Cup were officially released by the ICC on Monday. The tournament is being hosted by India, but all of Pakistan's fixtures will be played in Colombo, which is the designated neutral venue for the matches. That was decided as part of the agreement with the ICC, which had to be finalized due to strained relations between India and Pakistan. The date for the India-Pakistan clash has been confirmed now. It will be India's second fixture in the World Cup. The first match of the tournament will take place in Bengaluru on September 30th, which will see India face Sri Lanka. The event features 8 teams, with each playing the other in a round-robin format. The top 4 will make the semi-finals before the title clash on November in Bengaluru. However, if Pakistan make the final, then it will be held in Colombo. And that's the latest on this edition of Pulse. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us. This is Beyond Wild as One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back to WION World is One. We are glad you're watching. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Eric Njoka. Let's begin this broadcast with the newsmaking headlines at this hour. Iranian TV station hit during Israel missile strike on Tehran. Video of the moment of the attack on Iran state broadcaster while the anchor was reading news goes viral. Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. This as Israel continues to strike Tehran for the fourth consecutive day.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran is not winning its conflict with Israel, reiterates it should re-enter negotiations before it's too late. Russia says the U.S. has cancelled a fresh round of talks on normalizing the operations of their embassies. The next round of talks are to be moved to Moscow from Istanbul. Indian government begins a high-level probe into the Air India tragedy. 114 DNA matches of victims confirmed. Identification process still ongoing. Indian Met Department issues red alert for heavy rains in Maharashtra. Orange alert issued for Mumbai. This is the states in South India battle flooding due to intense rainfall. India will take on Pakistan at the ICC Women's World Cup on October 5th in Colombo. It will be the first time the two teams face off in cricket after the ceasefire in May. Israel struck headquarters of Iran's state TV in Tehran. Israeli Air Force bombed the offices of Iran's state broadcaster just a short while ago. The IRIB came under attack while the anchor was still on air talking about Israeli strikes when explosions were heard in her background. Plumes of smoke can be seen as the anchor scampers for safety.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم
On your screen are the images of the IRIB building on fire after it came under Israeli attack. However, shortly after the strike, state TV anchor was seen back on live broadcast. Israeli Defense Forces have now put out a statement claiming the strike was carried out on intelligence that the building was being used for military purposes by Iranian forces. The attack comes shortly after the IDF released a message on social media issuing a warning of evacuation to Iranians. The IDF posted an evacuation alert for Iranians in Tehran's District 3 in particular. The statement by Israel was released in Persian. Israel's evacuation orders impacted over 33,000 people in that area. It is important to note that Tehran's District 3 is an affluent neighborhood. Apart from the IRIB headquarters, other key buildings in that area include the headquarters of Iran's Defense Ministry and Defense Research and Innovation Organization. District 3 is a key location given the concentration of government and diplomatic buildings. Iran has slammed the Israeli attack on state TV and called it a war crime. All right, let's head live to Israel, and we understand that Israel's ambassador, Danny Danon, that is actually at the United Nations. Israel's ambassador, Danny Danon, is speaking to the media at the United Nations headquarters. Let's just listen in.
Buildings are being attacked that are residential, not very dissimilar to this one. The claim that you're just attacking nuclear or military sites is plainly not true, because we are seeing images of civilians getting killed all over the place. That's one. The second one, the spokesperson for IDF this morning said to District 3 of Tehran to leave because their lives were in danger. There are over 300,000 people in that district. How could they possibly leave on a shortage of gasoline because Israel hit a bunch of gasoline depots and all the highways are blocked? Where are they going to go? Are you going to take responsibility for the many civilians who are dying in Iran right now under Israeli bombs?
So let's speak about intentions. We are doing everything within our power to minimize civilian casualties. We aim targets that connected to the regime. And if there are civilian casualties, we regret that. Iran, on the other side, is doing exactly the opposite. They send those ballistic missiles into the cities. And unlike, we had a conflict with Iran a few months ago. Back then, they were targeting military bases, Air Force bases. This time, it's a different case. This time, they are targeting the cities. So we try to minimize. And yes, if we can give a warning to civilians to move from those areas, we are doing it, because we have nothing against the Iranian people. And I want to be clear about it. We pray for the Iranian people. We care about the Iranian people. We know that they are oppressed by this regime, and we hope that the day will come that we can work with them, like what we did with them 46 years ago before the revolution. So we will do everything we can to minimize civilian casualties. But as you said, it's a war, and we have seen what happened in our cities. So we will continue to target the military sites in Iran.
The defense secretary of your home government said the Iranian people in Tehran will pay the price. You clearly don't intend not to.
No, he clarified his words, and here I'm telling you very clearly, we have nothing against the people of Iran.
Do you think it matters your intention when they're dying under your bombs?
Well, as I told you earlier, we are targeting military sites. We are targeting the facilities of the IRGC, the nuclear reactors, not like what the Iranians are doing. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Two questions. First, the head of the Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said today that Israel had not hit the underground nuclear facility at Natanz. I believe you had said at the Security Council meeting on Friday that the facility had been destroyed and enabled. What is Israel's assessment of that? And secondly, you just said that you're trying to get information out to the Iranian people about Israeli targeting, and yet Israeli planes hit the TV station, the main television station of Iranian television, which the UN spokesman just criticized, saying media outlets should not, and journalists should not be targeted.
Well, first I will, regarding your first question, we will not go into details, but we pushed back the nuclear program in the last few days. We will continue with our efforts to push back the program. It's not a short operation. It's not similar to what we did in the 80s in Iraq, or in 2005 when we took care of the reactor in Syria. It's a much more challenging operation, and it takes time. Regarding your question about, we attack, targets that serving the IRGC in this effort. We will try to minimize all civilian casualties and to give warnings, but anyone who is cooperating with the IRGC and supporting the efforts of this terror regime should know that we have very good intelligence, and we proved it, and also we have very good control over the skies of Tehran now, so we can watch what's happening and we can take actions in Tehran.
So is that why the television station was targeted?
Whoever is cooperating with this terror regime should be consider his steps. Yes, please.
Ambassador, to the transcendental television, actually a couple of questions. First, do you have plans to come asking for any Security Council meetings on the escalation? And secondly, there's a report that Israel has a plan to exterminate the supreme leader of Iran. Is that still on the table? And yeah, I forgot the third one anyway.
So we will definitely look into calling for a session. We haven't done it yet, but you see the attacks on civilian centers, and I think that it adds up. Those numbers. We don't go into details of targets, but as I said earlier, we have very good control of what's happening today in Tehran.
What is your expectation of U.S. Army might get involved in this round of escalation?
Well, that's a question for the U.S., but I would say that, you see the chance in Tehran, it's not only death to Israel, it's also death to America. You see that Iran tried to assassinate not only our prime minister with a drone, they also tried to assassinate President Trump. So Iran is a threat not only to Israel, and I think many countries realize that, and you can hear it on private talks with many PRs here, that they're actually thankful for Israel of fulfilling this task of dealing with this terror regime.
Mr. Ambassador,
Yes, last question, please. Yes.
Stefano Vaccara, Ital Press, La Voce di New York. President Trump in Canada just said that Iranian contacted him to find a way to stop this war. He was asked, what are you going to do it? He said, in the beginning, he said it was now late, but my question to you is, what has to happen for Israel to agree for peace talk with Iran now?
So there's a saying in Farsi that you can do something with your hands and do something different with your legs. Maybe you can help me with the translation. So we need to see what are the actions of the Iranian regime is. Just to say it's not enough, because we saw in the last decades that they are a master of deception. They know how to play the game, to buy time. So if they really mean it, that they are willing to give away this machine of terror and destruction, that there would be place for dialogue. But if they are trying to buy time and to play the game, we are not there. Thank you very much. Yes, Jan.
Thank you. Abdulhamid Salam from the Arabic Daily of Quds Al-Arab. In 1 week, Mr. Ambassador, Israel attacked Syria, kidnapped 7 people. They attacked Lebanon and killed some civilians on the ground. They attacked Yemen also, in addition to the genocidal war in Gaza and the West Bank. Now you're displaying this building. If we want to display the buildings you destroyed in Gaza, how many pictures we need of that? And do you think that Israel is an international law-abiding country?
Absolutely, yes. And I will answer your question that every example you gave, you should ask yourself, who started? When you look at Gaza today, and there is suffering in Gaza, no one can ignore it. But who started it? There was a ceasefire on October 7th. It was peaceful. Hamas started it. When you look at what happened with Lebanon in Hezbollah, they started to join Hamas and started a fight with us. And when you look at Iran today, they decided to spend billions of dollars on nuclear capabilities and ballistic missiles in order to exterminate Israel. So yes, we are taking actions to protect ourselves, and we'll continue to do that. But you need to understand that in our neighborhood, unfortunately, there are some players, not all of them. We have the Abraham Accords, we have strong peace treaties with many countries, but you have radical elements that they have a vision to wipe Israel off the map, and we are ready to stop them from fulfilling it.
You started the war in Iran.
No.
You admit that?
No, we took a preemptive steps in order not to be surprised like happened to us on October 7th. Thank you very much.
That was Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Dani Danan. And we have another breaking news coming in at this hour. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC News in an interview that targeting Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei would end, not escalate, the ongoing fight between Israel and Iran that erupted late last week. When he was asked about reports that President Donald Trump had rejected an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's Supreme Leader, Netanyahu replied, and I quote, "It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict." This comes a day after reports stated that Trump had vetoed Israeli plans to assassinate Iran's Supreme Leader. Now, in a region simmering with tension, the question is not if, but when the next explosion will occur. The ongoing Israeli strikes on Iran have not only escalated the conflict, but also brought the stark realities of the two nations' military capabilities into sharp focus. The current situation is a brutal test of endurance. Who can absorb the most pain and to continue the fight?
The Israeli skies are lit. Waves of missile and drone barrages have been lighting up the skies across Israel. There is death and destruction. Israeli air defenses have claimed to have shot down 80 to 90% of the incoming missiles. However, missiles like these which sneaked through the multi-layered shield, caused much pain. The IDF says that the Israeli Air Force's success in destroying dozens of missile launchers and many missiles has reduced the pace of Iranian missiles piercing into Israel. The numbers paint a complex picture. Iran, with its vast territory and larger population, fields a substantial military, including a significant missile force. They possess a large number of ballistic missiles, including medium-range missiles capable of reaching Israel. However, much of their equipment is outdated, a mix of Soviet-era systems, pre-1979 American hardware, and more recent, though limited, Russian additions. Their air force, while numerically large, consists of aging aircraft, putting them at a disadvantage against Israel's modern fleet. Israel, in contrast, possesses a smaller but far more advanced military. Their air force is equipped with cutting-edge F-15, F-16 and F-35 stealth fighters, giving them air superiority in the region. Israel's defense industry is robust, capable of designing and producing advanced weaponry, and its forces are battle-hardened from decades of regional conflicts. The Israeli strikes have further weakened Iran. These precision attacks have degraded Iran's air defenses and targeted key nuclear and missile facilities.
Now we can say that we have achieved full air supremacy in the Tehran airspace. Iranian cells that are firing missiles at the state of Israel and toward our planes are being attacked by us in real time. The closing the circle capabilities that we have seen so far in Gaza, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria are happening now in Iran as well.
The strikes also eliminated several high-ranking Iranian military officials and nuclear scientists, disrupting their command structure and potentially delaying their nuclear program. While Iran possesses a large number of missiles, including some capable of hypersonic speeds, the effectiveness of Israel's strikes in neutralizing key launch sites and command centers cannot be understated. Iran warns that there is more to come.
هشدارهای پیش رو برای روزهای آینده شما.
Advance warning to Israelis for your future days. Leave the occupied territories, for they will certainly become uninhabitable for you in the future.
سکونت نخواهد بود.
The long-term implications are less clear. Iran's ability to endure and absorb pain is significant. Their large missile arsenal poses a persistent threat, and their proxy forces in the region could be activated to harass Israel. However, continued Israeli strikes targeting key infrastructure and military assets are likely to weaken Iran's military capabilities over time. The conflict has become a war of attrition, a test of wills and resilience. The question remains, who can withstand the accumulating blows and emerge victorious from this brutal exchange?
Also, this a man suspected of killing one Minnesota legislator and her husband has been arrested. Officials told media that 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter was taken into custody and was detained in Minnesota, but did not immediately give further details. Acting U.S. Attorney for District of Minnesota said the accused is charged with 2 counts of stalking, 2 counts of murder, and 2 counts of shooting using a firearm. If the charges of murder are proved, the accused will face life imprisonment or even death. Now, according to reports, Vance Luther Bolter also visited the homes of other lawmakers before the attack. He went to homes of at least 4 lawmakers the night he killed Democratic State Representative. The investigators say they have not recovered any material from him that indicates to have motivated him to carry out the killing. Bolter is suspected of fatally shooting the Democratic State Representative Melissa Hotman and her husband Mark at their residence on June 14th. He is also suspected of shooting the state senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. A U.S. media report says that he was arrested near his farm near Green Isle. The sheriff's office in Minnesota's Ramsey County posted a photo on social media which appears to show the suspected gunman in custody. A massive manhunt was put in place following the shootings, which Governor Tim Walz characterized as a politically motivated event.
Presidents have one question.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his visit to Cyprus. The Mediterranean island nation has conferred its highest civilian award to the Prime Minister. On receiving the top honor, the Prime Minister shared a post on social media which said, and I quote, "Humbled to receive the Grand Cross or the Order of Makarios III of Cyprus. I dedicate it to the friendship between our nations." The Indian leader now heads to Canada, where he will be attending the G7 summit. The Prime Minister and his Canadian counterpart Mark Carney had their first phone conversation on June 6th. The outreach session of the G7 summit, to be hosted by Canada, will take place on June 16th and 17th. It will be the Prime Minister's 6th consecutive participation in the G7 summit. Last week, India's Ministry of External Affairs said that the two leaders will have a meeting at the sidelines or on the sidelines of the summit, giving Prime Minister Modi and Carney an important opportunity to discuss matters of bilateral interest. The Prime Minister is on a three-nation visit, his first overseas trip since India launched Operation Sindoor against Pakistan. Cyprus had condemned the terror attack in Pahalgam on April 22nd and indicated that it would raise the issue of cross-border terrorism at the EU-level discussions. Cyprus is set to take over the presidency of the Council of the European Union in the first half of next year. And that's the latest at this hour. Thank you very much for watching. Do stay with us. This is We on World is One.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. We on World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. We on. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. This is our continuous comprehensive coverage of the latest coming in from West Asia. I am Molly Gambhir. We are starting off with a quick look at the headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an interview to ABC News, says targeting Iranian Supreme Leader will not escalate but end the war. This comes after reports emerged that Trump vetoed Israeli plans Iranian TV station hit during Israel missile strike on Tehran. Video of the moment of the attack on Iran's state broadcaster while the anchor reads the news goes viral. Iranian foreign minister says the US could stop Israel's attacks on the Islamic Republic with one phone call. Asserts Israel must halt its aggression as soon as possible.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran is not winning its conflict with Israel, reiterates it should re-enter negotiations before it's too late. The president of Ukraine says he wants to discuss buying US-made weapons with President Trump at the G7 meet in Canada. Stresses, however, that US military aid for Ukraine was not on the agenda. The Indian government begins a high-level probe into the Air India tragedy. 114 DNA matches of victims confirmed. Identification process ongoing. And news that's breaking this minute, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made a big statement. In an interview, Netanyahu has told ABC News that targeting Iran's supreme leader would end and not escalate the ongoing fight between Israel and Iran. In fact, when asked about reports that President Trump had rejected an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, Netanyahu said, and I'm quoting, "It's not going to escalate the conflict, it's going to end the conflict," quote unquote. And this comes a day after reports stated that Trump had vetoed Israeli plans to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. That's the latest coming in. The Israeli Prime Minister, in that interview to ABC News, has said that targeting Iran's supreme leader is not going to escalate the conflict, it's going to end the conflict. Let's go straight across now to Nader Hashemi with us on the broadcast for more on all of that. Let me begin by asking you for your reaction on that news just coming in, the Israeli Prime Minister's statement as far as the Iranian Supreme Leader is concerned. Now, according to him, assassinating Iran's Supreme Leader is not going to escalate the conflict, it's going to end the conflict. What do you make of that statement?
That's a very predictable statement coming from Benjamin Netanyahu, who naively and mistakenly believes, like many of his supporters in the West, that you can solve the very complicated problems of the Middle East by using raw military power. Israel has been assassinating its enemies from really the time that its state was created. There is a very long list of people that the state of Israel has assassinated, both Palestinians who have been secular nationalists and those who have been religious nationalists. The list is very long. Is Israel safer today because of this policy of targeted assassinations, or is it weaker today? So this rhetoric is, I think, unhelpful. I think it's deeply misguided, and it's very much expected. Let's not forget that Benjamin Netanyahu has an international arrest warrant out for him for his policies in Gaza. He is an indicted war criminal. So one would expect this type of hysterical rhetoric from someone who has that type of reputation among the international human rights community.
All right. I also want to get in your assessment of the statements coming in from the U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, in that warning to Iran, in a way, once again, he's talked about how the country should re-enter negotiations before it's too late. At this point, we've also been speaking to experts who said the only man who can actually end this conflict is the U.S. president. And now we have that latest statement coming in from the American leader, who earlier also said that sometimes countries need to fight it out before something can happen. I just want to get in your assessment of Trump's positioning right now.
I think Trump's statement confirms that he is in favor of this war. The fact that he's refusing to sign on to the G7 statement calling for de-escalation effectively means that he wants this war to continue. From the perspective of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, there's a lot of enthusiasm over what Israel is doing to Iran, because it's naively believed that Israel is redrawing the political map of the Middle East, and when this is all said and done, things will be better. I think, objectively speaking, it's the exact opposite. And Donald Trump is very much caught up in this framing. All of his advisors actually believe that good things can come out of this war with Iran. In terms of returning to negotiations, it's important to point out a basic fact that Iran and the United States were negotiating. In fact, the 6th round of negotiations over Iran's nuclear program were to have taken place yesterday. And it's precisely and exactly to scuttle the prospects of diplomacy that Benjamin Netanyahu launched this attack, which is why Israel has assassinated Iran's lead negotiator at the diplomatic talks in Oman, Ali Shamkhani. That's where we are with respect to the United States. In many ways, the United States is claiming that they haven't been directly involved in this war. I think the truth is very different. The United States is deeply implicated in this conflict. And the other point that I think it's important for your viewers to realize, since we're talking about the G7 world powers, most of them Western powers, it's pretty clear that these powers have learned absolutely nothing from the 2003 invasion and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan. That brute military force in the Middle East, claiming that you can take away dictators and solve the problem, and then hope that peace and stability will emerge in the aftermath, is a wishful thinking. Nothing has been learned from the Iraq war invasion, absolutely nothing.
The way things stand right now, this conflict is headed in that escalatory tangent with each passing day. Looking at where things started out on Friday to where we stand right now. Let's also talk about the targets that have been chosen by Israel and what that tells us about what Israel is trying to do. In the latest, the state TV being targeted, and earlier, of course, the string of targets that have been chosen by Israel.
It's clear that Israel has a much broader list of targets that it's attacking, not just military installations, not just the senior leadership, but also economic targets, parts of Iran's civilian infrastructure. In 2006, when Israel went to war with Hezbollah, there was a term that was coined by the Israeli chief of Israel's top general called the Dahiya Doctrine. And that referred to a specific military doctrine that Israel had, where using intense bombing of civilian infrastructure, in this case in Lebanon, hitting these economic interests, these civilian installations and structures, that the enemy could then be forced to compromise on Israel's terms, that the population would then rise up and force a settlement. Israeli TV is now quoting that exact same doctrine used by Israel several times in Lebanon in the context of this current war with Iran. It's pretty clear that that's what Israel is pursuing. And because Israel is much more militarily powerful than Iran, it will be successful, I think, in doing that, because there's very little ability for Iran to, stop these types of attacks. And so it's a broad-based attempt to break the backbone of the Islamic Republic of Iran, not just the regime, but also those institutions that sustain life, which is why it's so devastating. And I think under international law, these types of attacks on civilian infrastructure are clearly violations of international law, clearly violations of the rules of war.
Where do you think where do you see things headed at this point? And is there any scope of diplomacy, according to you? Are you optimistic at all about that happening?
I see this dragging on for a long period of time because, as we just discussed, the one person who can stop this war, Donald Trump, is in favor of it. He believes that war is actually an instrument of diplomacy. He naively believes that this will actually force Iran to the bargaining table, and then the United States would be able to effectively